real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause that's what's that? Let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause that's what's that? Let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause that's what's that? Let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause that's what's that? Let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause that's what's that? Let's get ready.
We're back to Salt of the Streets podcast. Social and political
salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and Donovan, cause that's what's that? Oh, let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and Donovan, cause that's what's that? Oh, let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and Donovan, cause that's what's that? Oh, let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and Donovan, cause that's what's that? Oh, let's get ready. Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Salt the Streets Friday live stream special show thing that we do here. We call it Beer Time with BigBird, and that's because it's Friday, and I'm going to drink a beer, and then I'm going to talk about a story that has just been grinding my gears, for lack of a better term. Generally over the past week or so. And this one in particular is a really, really, it's actually kind of fresh, but it goes back. It's been grinding my gears for a long time. Joseph, welcome. Mr. Garrett, Bud Light on deck. Cheers. Well, as per the usual, Mr. Joseph, we're going to start off today's show with an introduction of the beer that I am drinking today. And to do that, we're going to take a look at their website. This is the Breckenridge Brewing Company out of Colorado, actually. I'm usually doing local brews, but this is just, I've been into it this week. And surprise, surprise, the beer we're drinking today is none other than this fabulous Oktoberfest they have previewed on their homepage. So we're going to go ahead and be diving into this. It is according to them, it's an elegant German amber lager that's true to style and exceptionally smooth. I can attest to that. It's really, really good. Bready, toasty aromas and flavors mingle with light malty sweetness, soft mouthfeel, which it does have a soft mouthfeel, and a touch of hops combined to offer a clean, dry finish. Again, can confirm this is a fabulous Oktoberfest, and if you have been watching the show for any length of time at all, you'll realize I'm a huge Oktoberfest fan, and so this is kind of my favorite time of the year as far as beers go. And of course, I kind of cheated today because it's a bottle, and it's so much easier for me not to screw up a pour on camera when it's in a bottle and not a can. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Oh, yeah, that's refreshing. It's Friday. You can tell it's Friday because we need a beer by the time Friday rolls around. Been show prepping all week. It's been a hell of a week as far as building the show is concerned. It's surprisingly in the modern era, I guess this has been what we would call a light news week, if you will, a couple weeks. It's been kind of an interesting situation trying to come down to what we're going to be talking about on the show tomorrow, because as you could see on the sign, episode 133 is happening tomorrow, right here on the Salt of the Streets YouTube channel. It's going to be a live stream. It's going to be at noon Pacific time for you East Coast people. It'll be 3 o'clock Eastern time. We've got some new cameras in the studio. It's cool. It's a little darker in here because we're doing like a nice Friday night ambiance thing. It's going to be fun. So we're going to see how that works, and it's just going to be a really good show tomorrow. We have a lot to cover tomorrow. It's going to be a heavy one. We're going to be talking a lot about kind of like midterms, if you will. We're going to be talking about like the general vibe of midterms. We've got some local stories to talk about. There's a particular Senate race that's kind of a national big deal if as far as senatorial races go, and it's between Patty Murray, the incumbent. I think she's like number 3 Democrat in the Senate right now. She's a big hitter, but she's got a contender that's doing surprisingly well, especially for the state of Washington. So we're going to be diving into some of that. Her name is Tiffany Smiley. She's not too bad to look at. But she's got a lot of nice, interesting things to say. So we're going to talk about that. Yeah, and midterms is going to include just a lot about some of the races going on. We're going to be talking about, a lot of the non-political race-specific things that all kind of add to midterms. I think this midterm in particular is kind of a special time in our nation's politics. Seems like a really, really, really big deal. This midterms is like huge compared to any other midterms that I can recall in recent history. This it kind of feels like a presidential year, which is hilarious, because when you really think about it, there's kind of there's the people running, but it's who they stand for. That is kind of where the votes are going. But we're going to get into all that. We got a really big grab bag. I've got a fun story. I hope we can get to kind of an update in the Elon Musk Twitter purchase situation. Some stuff going on there. We're going to be talking some shit on TikTok that goes right along with that, because TikTok's bad is what I'm trying to say here. TikTok is bad. It always has been bad. It's doing bad. It's not good. So I hope to bring some of that stuff up in the grab bag. It's going to be fantastic. But as the title of today's episode would insinuate. We're going to be talking about the migrant situation today. If you have at all been paying attention over the last, few weeks, especially over the last month, there's been a lot of talk in the news about migrants being bussed places, shipped places coming out of Texas and Arizona by the governors of those states in an attempt to, some would say in a political ploy, if you will, to do whatever, I don't know, raise their national profile, whatever the negative story is, because that's most of them out there. Some people say it's to bring awareness to the issue, so on and so forth, but we've got some really interesting new developments in that situation. So we're going to be diving into a couple stories, taking a look at where this has kind of started and seeing where we're at now, because, dark times, bro. Dark times. And we're gonna have a lot of laughs here tonight. There's a lot of Schadenfreude, I would assume we're gonna have, because I know I feel it. But I also want to have kind of a general reality check, because it's so easy for both sides of this situation to get caught up in the political back and forth and the gotchas and the good digs of the moment, and we forget sometimes that these are human beings we're talking about that are being used here for one reason or another, but let's before we dive into all the everyone's going to hell side, let's dive into the first story here. I've got one pulled up from the Post Millennial. Breaking: Massachusetts deploys National Guard to assist in removal of illegal aliens from Marthas Vineyard. So before we dive into this, the actual base situation here. The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, through legal channels, as it turns out, and legally approved by the state legislature funds, paid for the transportation of 50 migrants from Texas to Marthas Vineyard, Massachusetts. And if you don't know anything about Marthas Vineyard, let me just Google some beautiful pictures of Marthas Vineyard, because I used to live in the Northeast, and I know a little bit about Marthas Vineyard. It's a very, very interesting place. It's generally speaking a place where a lot of very rich people go vacation. And you can see here, I mean, it is beautiful place, especially in the summertime. It's a massive tourist destination. It's primarily for, the wealthier folks. There's a lot of very prominent people that have mansions out there, estates out there. The Obamas have a place. I believe Oprah's got a place. But it's a very, very charming place if you're into that cool kind of New England-y vibe. And yesterday, 50 billionaires. Can't handle 50. Yeah, bro. I know. We'll get to it. Trust me. 50 of them. Here's a picture of some of them right there. But yeah, they flew in 50 migrants to this small community of Martha's Vineyard, which if they were smart, they would have done it earlier, because this is off peak. This is off peak tourist time. Ron DeSantis is unfamiliar. He should be more familiar with that. All the rich and famous people have already left. They've come and they've gone. They're not there right now. These are just the local people that like to have the yard signs that say, "We respect women. We value Black lives. We stand with our LGBTQ," and they forgot a couple letters there, so they're a bunch of bigots. "We stand with immigrants, with refugees, with indigenous peoples." The yard signs. The yard sign folk. Well, a lot of the Schadenfreude has come around because they got to put their money where their mouth is, and they got to deal with 50 migrants that showed up, surprisingly, one day. And I will say there's been a lot of negative stories put out there about how how cruel it was that Ron DeSantis did this, and how Texas is allowing this to happen, and they're shipping these migrants, they're trafficking people, which, the government is trafficking human beings. This is no surprise. We've talked about this before. The Biden administration has been trafficking children for years now. So the government is trafficking people. It's just a matter of how you use them, I guess, at this point. But yeah, they showed up, and the small local community that is of the actual permanent residents that live in Martha's Vineyard having to spring into action and take care of this. And so for the last 24 hours, they've been trying to do that. Local restaurants have pitched in to help feed people. A lot of locals have come out and tried to. Everybody's been trying to help these people, right? And it's no surprise that within 24 hours, the governor has stepped in and they have brought in the National Guard to bus these 50 migrants out of Marthas Vineyard, and they're sending them to the military base at Cape Cod. So there's that. That's a really interesting situation. So they got a small taste of it. Everybody's highly offended. I've heard a lot of mixed stories, actually. There's been some interviews on both sides of the political spectrum, and some people insinuating that the migrants had no idea where they were going to go. They expect to have working papers when they show up, and they were going to get jobs and a place to stay, and blah blah blah. And then some people are just like, actually, I'm happy to be here. Everybody's really nice. It's we've been taken care of. All of our needs been met. Like, both sides are like trying to play this narrative against each other, and you got to remember, bro. You got to remember, these are real people too. These are real people being used. Let's watch this video here. Oh, the quality of garbage. There we go. So this is them actually being loaded on the buses from Marthas Vineyard, being sent to Cape Cod after their 24-hour stay. But Marthas Vineyard has not been the only place that has been subject to this. And we're just going to kind of go from the most present and slowly back. At the same time, some buses were sent to Washington, D.C. Again, there's been multiple buses to Washington, D.C., but this one in particular were sent to the bus stop just outside of the official residence of the vice president. I don't want to say it was Kamala Harris's house, but technically it is Kamala Harris's house, but it is actually, it was Mike Pence's house too. It's the official residence of the vice president. It's at the Naval Observatory, and there's a bus stop right out in front of the gate, and there was 101 migrants that were dropped off right out in front. And so I got this article here from Timcast. We'll read a little bit of it. Kamala Harris declines to comment after 101 migrants were dropped off outside her residence. Texas Governor Abbott sent 2 buses of migrants, mostly from Venezuela, to the U.S. Naval Observatory in protest of the administration relaxed border security. Who wrote this? Cassandra did. Security policies. Quote, this morning, 2 Texas buses of migrants arrived at the Naval Observatory in D.C., Governor Abbott said in a tweet. VP Harris claims our border is, quote, secure and denies the crisis. We're sending migrants to her backyard, it's actually her front yard, to call on the Biden administration to do its job and secure the border. So obviously Greg Abbott is taking a stance here that he's trying to raise awareness to what's going on here. Joseph says, shows you how cheap the wealthy are. We need tax dollars to remove the migrants from our $1 million community. Yeah, there's that. There is that. I will say, a lot of the people that live, the permanent residents that live in Marthas Vineyard are not the rich and the powerful for the most part. A lot of those people are kind of, how do I best describe it? There's a good Stephen King movie called The Mist. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's pretty fantastic, but it has to do with, like, I think the island of Nantucket, I believe. But there's this group of people that live in these, like, New England islands, and they're very interesting folk. They're very insider, I'll say that much, but they're generally very, very kind of flannel wearing, blue collar, kind of like, I don't know, lumberjack hippies, if you will. I don't know. They're strange folk, but they're really only supported by the rich and the famous that go there and then boost their communities' incomes and stuff like that. But it's a very interesting group of people, but the people that are there now are not generally the rich and famous. Don't get me wrong, they are there. But the people that live there year-round are not the typical people. Although it is a shot across the bow, because this is their backyard. This is the rich and the famous, the powerful. This is the Obama's playground. This is where a lot of politicians go to vacation. There's a lot of really wealthy people from New York City go there to vacation. I mean, everybody that's kind of in that area, if you're above a certain, class, That's where you go in the summertime, 'cause that's where everybody goes. And, you got big estates, and you stay at these really nice $1 million mansions, and, you do the whole 9 yards. But to get back to this is obviously an attempt. Greg Abbott is in the position, and I really feel for him, because his state is, we got the highest illegal immigrant numbers crossing the border every single day that we have ever had in history. There's numbers of 5,000 to 8,000, apprehensions or encounters per day. We're looking at 2 million encounters so far this year alone, the highest ever. While the vice president is getting on TV and saying our border is secure. You got the Crime Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, saying the same thing. We have a secure border. I don't know what you're talking about. Our border is secure. Yet 2 million illegal migrants crossing into this country, and then the state of Texas and the state of Arizona, these few border states are just left to just figure it the fuck out because the feds aren't doing shit about it. I'm sure that there's some fraction of the number that are being apprehended and detained, but nobody can handle that volume with the amount of actual border patrol that we do have down there. It's just unfeasible, and the Biden administration just completely chooses to look the other way. And what is a governor supposed to do other than these quote unquote political stunts, like shipping the illegal migrants to, so-called sanctuary cities? There's a story here, it's not that one. Here we go. Chicago, Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot has been subject to this. The governor has been sending buses to Chicago for her to deal with because she's a very outspoken sanctuary city mayor. And what has Lori Lightfoot done but bust them right out of her city and scream to the feds for help because they can't handle it. She'll chastise these governors left and right about being inhumane and blah, 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 and calling them the next worst thing to Satan. But the minute she gets a small fraction of what they're doing, she ships them right out of the city and says, all right, suburbs, it's good luck. I'm not dealing with that. Abbott's on the front line. But I think old Ron made a bigger splash with his choice of destination. He certainly did. Thank you, Joseph. It was definitely raising the bar as far as we stepped up to the next level. We're not quite at boss fight level, but we've definitely leveled up at this situation. We've gone from the loudmouth, small-time political players like a mayor of a city. New York City's also been subject to this. The new mayor in New York City, Mayor Adams, has also been dealing with this. And again, they're getting small fractions of what Governor Abbott and Governor Doug Ducey, I believe his name is, have been dealing in Arizona, have been dealing with every single day for years and years and years. And the feds are dropping the ball, not doing anything but to look the other way. And I will say this too. I wanted to mention this before we get too far afield here. Every podcast you listen to, every story you hear about this, to talk about the migrants, even Fox News here, the 100 migrants, the migrants. It is important to remember, none of these people have entered the country legally. Every single one of these people is an illegal alien who has crossed the border illegally. These are illegal migrants that are seeking work. They're seeking better economic situations. I mean, you could feel for them. These are, like I said, these are real people that are generally, the 50 folks that were flown up to Marthas Vineyard were fleeing the communist dictatorship, wasteland of Venezuela. That seems legit. They're fleeing communism. That seems like prime time. They want to be here, but realistically, if they are an illegal alien, it's illegal for anybody to hire them, to give them work. If you go to a big city, big sanctuary city like New York City or Chicago, I'm sure there are places that will hire people under the table. You go to any any amazing restaurant in New York City, I guarantee you half the staff back there doesn't have papers. But they're the best damn cooks you'll ever find. I mean, the cooking industry is filled with people that are, have gray areas as far as their immigration status, but they work fucking hard and they are doing the best they can, and they're being a part of the system, the whole 9 yards, right? And they're all, for the most part, they're all good, hard-working folks, man. It's real easy to get caught up in this left-right game of like, we got you, deal with these fucking migrants. This is just a small piece of what we deal with every day. But what is Stalin, I think, used to say it, like, one person is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. We're getting to the point where we're talking about 2 million illegal crossings, 2 million illegal interactions, I should say, that are then released into the interior. And this is going back years. The Biden administration has been doing this already. We got to remember that too. This is something that it may seem like a surprise now, but the Biden administration has been doing this for years already. This is a story back in, it was updated in 2021, but we talked about on the show probably a year or so ago when this really became kind of prevalent. There was some leaks that got put out to the media about these things called ghost flights in the middle of the night. The Biden administration was loading up primarily, what do they call that? Underage migrants that were being flown to all sorts of different small towns all across America in the dead of night. And most of the time, the authorities in those towns and in those cities had no idea what was happening until they realized that there's a bunch of, underage migrants now in my city. What am I supposed to do about this? So the Biden administration has been doing this under the cover of darkness, clandestinely, trafficking migrant children for years. And now that Ron DeSantis is being very vocal about it in an attempt to get some assistance or shine a light on it or bring new conversation to it, he's being damned by the corporate press left and right, which is, if you don't have any solutions at this point, I don't know what to tell you, man. I feel bad for him, and I do feel bad for these people that are fleeing terrible, terrible situations. But man, I'm not a build the wall guy, but if there's one thing that would stop this, it might be build the wall. That'd be a good way to do it. Either that, or I don't know, maybe pull all those troops that we just pulled out of Afghanistan and put them on the border, and maybe put some money towards that. I don't know, man. I don't got the solution here, but all I know is this is a serious problem. And put a tracker on them. You'll probably find the new Epstein. Oh, Joseph for the win. Yeah, where's the new Epstein Island? I mean, none of the client lists got released. So just because Epstein's dead and Ghislaine is, missing somewhere, supposedly in a jail cell, but nobody knows. The client list is still all out there. They're still going gangbusters. It's not like they just stopped what they were doing. I'm sure they found somebody else to, supply and demand, man. If there's a need, somebody's going to rise to the top and fill it, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, hell, just give them all an Obama phone and have them install TikTok on it, and then everybody knows where they're at. Done. That's how you do that. But anyways, so yeah, that's the thing that's happening. I don't know. It's terrible. And I love Schadenfreude as much as I like to see Lori Lightfoot sweat with her Beetlejuice-looking face and her crazy-ass hair. I like to see all these people that are out there virtue signaling every day about what the governor down actually on the front line should do, even though it's the Fed's job to handle it, and damning them for everything they try to do, while every person down there that lives on the community is being devastated by this. If you can't handle 50 people, how do you think those people feel that live in those border towns that are getting 8,000 a day? That's insane to think about. You can't even visualize that, man. 8,000? Even a few hundred coming through some small town a day? You think you could picture that, but I don't. That's a tough call, man. I don't know. But I would caution you this. We're going to leave it here, and we're going to go ahead and step off. One last point, and then we'll do some plugs for the show, and then we'll wish everybody a good weekend. But just remember, if you think the answer to this is building the wall, just remember that walls do equally as well a good job as keeping people fenced in as keeping people out. So just remember that if you're a wall guy. So yeah, we're going to leave it there. We're going to be watching the situation. Obviously, the migrants aren't going to stop. It's going to keep happening. So just remember that. And it's also important to remember, these are illegal immigrants that are just coming in. If they're being apprehended at all, they're getting a court date and sent anywhere around the country. And then it's just and imagine how long it's going to take for our court system to try to keep up with 2 million a year. Don't think that's happening, man. I don't think that's happening. So anyways, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure, everybody, Joseph, thanks for hanging out. Cheers, buddy. It's Friday. Let's drink some beers. We've got a lot of show prep to do because tomorrow's going to be an amazing, amazing podcast. We're going to be right here. We're going to be going for hours and hours and hours like we always do. Episode 133 right here at noon Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. And I think what we're going to do here, we've only been doing the live stream a couple times now, but I think we're just going to put this timestamp on it. I like it. I think 4:30 every Friday right here. Be here, be square. But yeah, make sure to follow us on all the things. I could hit a button and I could show you the socials. There they are. I can hit the other button and I come back. Look at that. Boom. But yeah, it's gonna be great. Don's gonna be in studio. We got some new cameras going on. We got a whole good thing going on tomorrow, man. It's gonna be amazing. We got some more beers to drink, a lot of social and cultural stuff to talk about, and I hope to see you all there. But until then, cheers, everybody. Have a good weekend.